Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome to the grand virtual edition of Vibe Martech Fest, produced by Martech Vibe. My name is Aziza Razak Berdiva. I'm a keynote speaker, fulfillment coach, presenter, and I'm delighted to host this virtual high-level summit today. Thank you all for joining us. It's great to see you all industry leaders together. I hope that you and your loved ones have been keeping safe and well. Recently, there has been an immense growth in the adoption of marketing technology in Saudi Arabia, and it is seen as a major driver of innovation and business transformation. Saudi Arabia has been making headway in the tech world for quite some time, and it's now on track to become one of the most important economies in the 21st century. Vibe Martech Fest, VMF, is a flag bearer of technology-driven marketing evolution in the Middle East. Bringing the successful addition to Saudi Arabia, VMF aims to lead the discussion on MarTech and set the agenda for the future in the region. The Couch Edition aims to bring more engagement in the marketing leaders community in the kingdom. The fast-paced knowledge sessions, new age creativity, gripping stories, and loads of excitement are some of the aspects the fest is known for, and we are excited for the Saudi marketing community to witness all of that. I would like to thank all of our distinguished speakers, our guests, and all our partners who have supported MarTech Vibe and made this event possible. A massive shout out and thank you to our presenting sponsor, OneTrust, our diamond sponsor, Sprinkler, our platinum sponsor, SAP, gold sponsor, Telium, Salesforce, and Talkwalker, and our silver sponsors, Meltwater and Reprise. Please do visit their booth in the lounge areas and interact with our sponsors as they've got expert solutions that will help boost your company's MarTech strategy moving forward. Now it is time to start with our summit. Are you ready? And we've got a power-packed panel discussion on how to pivot, pave, and proceed to lead in the post-pandemic world led actually by the CMOs of major renowned brands in the region. And I would like to welcome our panelists. Our first panelist is Dr. Sobhi Agha. He is a Group Chief Marketing Officer at SAB Investment. He is a seasoned marketeer with a proven track record of successful product and brand development. Sobhi, he has worked with iconic multinational companies across various industries, ranging from insurance to trading and now real estate. He blends an insightful and creative approach with effective team leadership. Welcome. Welcome, Sobhi. Great to have you.
Welcome, Aziza. Nice to be here and to be joined by the leaders of the marketing in Saudi Arabia and to talk about the region future. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you. And our next panelist is Rami Zahran. He's a Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Saudi German Health, KSA, with over 14 years of experience in Markham. He heads the company's marketing communications, digital, CRM, and events activities, quite handful. His leadership has been instrumental in the complete transformation of the Hospitals Group brand, where he got consolidated under one large healthcare group known as Saudi German Health brand. Please welcome.
Thank you, Aziza.
Please welcome Rami. Nice to have you. And on to our third panelist is Kashif Siddiqui. He's a CX solutions consultant at SAP. Kashif is a passionate about facilitating design thinking and CX innovation workshops and hosting live events. Apart from his practical, rich work experience, Kashif has authored a number of papers on CRM and CX with multiple industries. Welcome, Kashif. Great to have you. And to moderate this panel, I welcome our renowned editorial director at MarTech Vibe, Ravi Raman. He's a media industry professional with over 2 decades of content strategy, brand marketing, and team leadership experience. He has launched the Middle East editions of brands like Wired and Bloomberg Business Week, while played pivotal leadership roles at Khalij Times, the New York Times Style Magazine, MSN, India Today, and The Telegraph. Ravi is also a TEDx speaker and a moderator at industry's esteemed forums. Over to you now. Ravi, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Aziza. Really, really a pleasure to be addressing this amazing crowd in Saudi Arabia. Since the most significant change has been in customer behavior and expectations, it's natural for the role of the CMO to broaden, shift, and evolve. As you know, many companies renamed their CMOs, many fired their CMOs, and then changed their minds. So how should you prepare for the future? Let's find out from this amazing panel. My first question to you to the panel is, with the shift in consumer behavior and business models, how did you pivot your roles, goal, and strategies? We can start with Rami. I like to go alphabetically. So Rami first, and then you have Dr. Sobhi, and Kashif, we can come in later.
Sure. So thank you, Ravi, for that introduction. I guess for us, the pivot obviously has been. We all know that the pivot has been a huge focus. The pivot has been due to a huge focus on customer service. So in marketing, I would say over the last 10 years, we've seen companies start to think a lot more in terms of what can we offer from a technology perspective to our customers that offers a more enhanced experience. Today, it's not enough to just be able to offer your product or service and it's just pure format, right? You have to also be able to offer the equivalent of it digitally in some sort of way, or at least enable or enhance it digitally. And that's become a standard expectation amongst customers. So customer experience is now the key. It really is the key. It's the differentiator between you choosing one brand over another brand. So that's been the key pivot. And so for us as an organization, we know that to be able to provide great customer experience, we're going to rely on technology. During the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, we knew that people were still required healthcare, right? No matter what is going on in the world, they'll always require healthcare. Yes, there are some products and services you can kind of put on the side, put on hold because you're going through a pandemic. You stop going to restaurants. You can stop, a purchase of a car, or there's industries that you could say, I'm going to put this on hold for now. Healthcare wasn't one of them. So we had to offer our product almost overnight in a digital format or a service, and that was done through what we call virtual visits, online teleconsultations. Luckily, we had an app, we had all the facilities available, we were able to do it overnight. So the key factor now for every organization is to make sure that they have the right tech in place that you can offer an enhanced customer experience through technology. And I want to remind everyone here that marketing isn't just purely advertising. Sure. Marketing isn't just the P of promotion. We have a much bigger role than that. We do have the role of enhancing the customer experience. We do have the role of finding out what products and services people are demanding and asking for, and enhancing them, repackaging them, providing them in a different way. And this is where technology plays a huge role. So it's our responsibility in marketing to use technology to provide a better product offering and service. So that's how we're doing it at Saudi Germany. We're using technology.
I mean, we would come back on the tech part. Dr. Sobhi, I want to focus a little bit more on what my question was, how has your role changed over the last 2 years? Has it been expanded? Have you seen that you're taking in a much more active role on CX, as Rami said?
Yes, definitely. I agree with most of 90% of what Mr. Rami said. Actually, let me talk about our group, which is FedEx and TNT, which with the logistics, which is the complementary of the medical sector Mr. Zahran was talking about. We were bombarded with demands, high demands. We needed to cope with technology. The past was behind us. We needed to define the future, define what we want to do. We need to satisfy the customers, rely on their satisfaction, be consistent, be there, increase our demand. We need to deliver the message that we can deliver. We needed to say that marketing is about giving you what's the guarantee that this thing is applicable. This is works for you. You have the guarantee. Before 20 years, people used to buy things and test me this lamp. But because the marketing people have done their job properly, now you buy let's say you buy an iPhone and the wrapped, and you tell him the specification, and you go open it, knowing for sure it's guaranteed and warranted. One of the challenges we have faced is how to keep the customer satisfied, how to deliver what he needs. They were sitting at their homes. We needed to redefine also our employees, how they cope with this scenario, how they change the behavior, how to move assets internally from the companies. First of all, we were worrying about the safety of our employees because they are our assets. And this shown dramatically in our marketing campaign, in our marketing feedback we used to give with the deliveries, like pamphlets. And actually, lots of departments, they were supporting each other. The medical sector, the logistics sector, and the retail sector, they were all joined at one hand. So we had to move. We have to reshape and redefine our brainstorming, our brain mindset, how to cope with this era.
Right.
And definitely you are in a new level.
It's a new world out there. Kashif, I know you're going to be agreeing with the other two panelists. So I want to put a different question to you. You also interact a lot with other CMOs. So what has been the biggest challenge or the change that they have seen in their role, and how have they prepared for it?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's a great question. And honestly, as being part of the customer experience solutions team, for us, marketing has different implications. And obviously, we are interacting with CMOs on a daily basis. And the feedback that we are getting from them is, again, related to what the other speakers on the panel have said, in the sense that they've had to pivot in terms of technology. They've had to think things differently. But one of the main things that we managed to understand from them was there used to be there was a paradigm shift in the way they thought. So the old truth that marketing begins with knowing your customer was changed or replaced by a new truth for them, which was marketing begins with knowing your customer segment. So the pandemic, it really had a change in terms of how they got to know their customer. What it did was it was acted like a catalyst. It was a catalyst for them to really understand at a very nitty-gritty level, what are the customers' emotions? What made them tick? How did they like to communicate? How did they like to be addressed? How did they prefer the buying process? So they really had to get to the heart of the customer. And that was key to really understand the situation on the ground. So that shift was something that we learned a lot from the CMOs we interacted with.
Interesting. So we'll come back to the technology aspect that both Rami.
Yeah, I realized, Ravi, I'm really sorry. I don't think we answered your question, which was the shift of the CMO itself, right?
Cool. We will come back to that. I want to focus a little bit more on the technology part now. Studies have shown that consumers have jumped 7 years in terms of their digital maturity. So when it comes to your tech stack, what gaps did the pandemic expose? Rami, why don't you start, giving your inputs on that, and then I'll come back to Kashif and Dr. Sobhi.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic exposed a lot of things, and I think the tech stack wasn't at the time my biggest issue. I think it was post-pandemic where I realized that we need to, everything needs to change. Now that we are entered in a completely different world in terms of customer service expectations, particularly from a digital perspective, it was the post-pandemic. It wasn't that during the pandemic that sort of there was a lot of evolution that happened, and a sort of the pandemic was a catalyst to the idea of we need to have technology and we need to have it now, and no more conceptualizing on it. Let's introduce it now, because you never know when another pandemic or another situation like this forces us to have it ready. So one of the tech solutions that I pushed for managed to get approved very recently, and now, because now we all understand the importance of technology and the importance of having the technology available to us today, was a CRM platform. A CRM platform allows you to communicate with your customers in a customized way, where you're able to do obviously multiple things, but you're able to customize their actual experience on premise. And when they come in, you're able to understand their preferences, greet them in a certain way, let them know about updates and feedback that they've provided, and let them know what improvements you've made and things you've corrected because of their feedback. You can also interact with them in a way that, for example, for us hospitals, we struggle with. We're able to communicate very well when people are on premise, but we're not so good in the before and the after. So now we're able to communicate with them digitally before and after, because we know how to communicate and customize that message. So that was extremely important. The marketing automation part of that is extremely important to us, because we're now able to bring in customers and generate leads in a much more efficient way. So the budget spend, where the pandemic showed us that we have to be absolutely super careful with our budget, because you never know when that's just gonna be cut off. So there's things that post-pandemic we reflected on and started introducing on in terms of technology.
That's interesting. Kashif, I want to bring you in here, since you're the technology expert in the panel. Tell us, what are the kind of gaps that you've noticed while you were working with the clients across during the pandemic, and as we get out of the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were very lucky being in the technology sphere, being part of one of the leading technology brands in the world. We were already pretty used to working with these tools for remote and virtual interactions. And, for us, it was basically kicked into hyperdrive. So that was the only difference for us. But what we saw with customers was the pandemic, the organizations we dealt with, overall, what happened was it accelerated their digital transformation plans. So these were the customers where their customers caused them, where they were basically, their customers were shopping online, they were ordering online, they were researching online, they were consuming content online. And this basically necessitated companies to quickly retool their experiences and processes and add new capabilities. So that's what we saw from our perspective. So with the increase in the data volume coming in from all of these touch points, it became more critical for companies that we interacted with to build a customer data foundation such as a CDP, which really allowed them to connect all the customer-facing processes to be able to ingest and unify the data and make it available for analytics enterprise-wide. And so that was the main change we saw, was the shift to dealing with a much more data-driven and personalized customer journey that they were witnessing.
Dr. Sobhi, what about you? What were the kind of tech gaps or strategic gaps that were exposed, and how are you augmenting them?
Let me put it this way. Let's say we were moving in a car on a normal speed in a normal highway, and all of a sudden you need to push the throttle and go the fastest, the maximum car can go. You need data, you need internet capability, you need to be there. You need your customers to know that you are there. If they call you, if they interact with you, you need to have the capabilities. So we found that chatbots we are using to the full maximum, using the data center, the CRMs, like Rami said. We used to do the redundancy centers. We need to protect our data. So we were bombarded with technology that we need to cap. So that will teach us that in the future we have to be more capable, but we cannot expect the unexpected. We have to cross the bridge. So what we have done, we have coped with the problem. Yes, we had gaps because we were not ready, because we were doing a mixture of analog and technology and digital, because still in this part of the world, I mean, we are always like 5 years behind the technology. So we adapt fast. And adaptation came from the learning curve, what we had to learn in a very quick way and buy equipment and infrastructure, which was very scarce at that time because everybody was looking for digital and technology. But we have, I will not say it as a gap, but I will say that we have coped. always the leadership and the leaders, they adopt, and we have adopted towards getting better in our technology, and for sure we're going to plan for the future much more better than what we are now.
That's interesting. But I tend to disagree with you on the region being 5 years behind, because what's happening to my mind is that consumers are now global consumers, and the brands and companies have to, I would say, follow the consumers. If your consumer is really high tech, then you need to be right there. Rami, I want to come back to the point that you mentioned about giving on-premise.
But can I redefine that? I was not talking about the individuals and the end user. I was talking about the infrastructure. Our infrastructure is not ready. This is it. But the end user, they are intellectual, they are up to date. Even the youngsters, they help the elders to cope. So we have no issue with this. I was talking about the infrastructure and the technology hubs itself.
Understood.
Thank
so,
you.
Rami, I want to just come back to the point that you raised about the on-premise experience and how you could translate that digitally. Essentially, we talk about an omni-channel experience. Now, what tools are now becoming critical to offer personalization and automation? What has been your experience? What are you exploring? And Kashif, you could also come back with your inputs on that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, CRM, extremely important. CRM allows you to capture data of your patients and be able to capture preferences, which is amazing. So it's not just about using the CRM for marketing automation, as I mentioned, but let's say a customer, and I truly believe, I really believe that it's no longer just about meeting customer expectations. It's about constantly exceeding them, because that's what's going to differentiate, again, one user from another. A user or a customer acquiring the product or services of one company versus another. I have a great example of, I was sitting over the weekend with some friends, and I have a specific branded phone that I'll not go into brands, and they had another brand, and just the customer service I received from my phone. I'll say the one that I did because I'll say a positive thing on Apple. It's just incredible. I had a case of credit card fraud that was actually using Apple products. And so I called the bank, and the bank said, 2 weeks, send the form, we'll see what we can do. I called up Apple, and I told them this happened. And they called me back. They're the ones who actually, I didn't call them up. They called me when I filled the form online. They called me, and the person on the line was empowered to say, hey, Rami, don't you worry, we'll refund you. And within 2 days, I had it back in my bank account. How great is that customer experience? And that's not about meeting, that's exceeding. They exceeded my expectations, and we have to constantly do that. So the technology that we have today, like a CRM, where you can personalize and exceed customer expectation thanks to that customization, thanks to that personalization. So for example, Ravi walks into my hospital and I say, hey, Ravi, welcome back. I'm just going to check you in. By the way, I noticed that last time you had a complaint about there was a leak in the toilet, the men's toilet. The last time you went in it, the floor was a little bit dirty. We spoke to our facility management team. We repaired that. I can guarantee you, it's absolutely spotless. And we apologize about your previous experience, but we've noted it down and we took action. How great is that? You've exceeded their expectation. They probably forgot it, but the fact that you remembered and you brought it up, that's the kind of customization that you need to be doing.
That's amazing insight. That's an amazing insight. And I can see that there's a huge, very vibrant discussion happening on our panel on the side, which is great. I just heard or read a point about there are two different consumer behaviors, the youth and the elders. Yes and no. Kashif, what about you? What's the kind of tools that you think marketers should be looking at for personalization and basic automation? What are the next steps that marketers should look at? So you did mention about CDP. You want to talk a little bit more about CDP?
Sure. Well, I mean, actually, CDP is one part of the entire journey that we see that marketers are embarking on. Of course, what we are seeing is that personalized customer journeys is where marketers are now going to be focusing additionally on. They have to adapt to the demands and the needs of the customers in real time. So that's one of the trends that we are seeing is a fact to adapt to the customer's needs in real time, whether it's through the concept of endless channels. So it's not just about having multi-channel or omni-channel. It's a new endless channel concept that we have with elements of proactive knowledge base that is incorporated, universal AI. So what we're going to see is that the customer journey is personalized, it's adaptive, it's value driven based on the wealth of data that is collected and unified from a CDP that will really cater to the customer's emotional needs, functional needs, moment needs. And this trend in hyper personalization is what we're really encouraging the marketers that we talk to in exploring, because personalization being adaptive is a real area of focus that we see, and solutions that support that capability, such as, for example, at SAP we have Immersis, which allows you to fine-tune messages, concepts, interactions in real time with the customers depending on their needs. So it's these type of tools we see will be very beneficial going ahead for marketers.
Dr. Sobhi, I want to come to you now. Tell me about how do you really look at personalization of your customers? Your industry is slightly different. It's almost like a commodity now, or I might be wrong. So why don't you tell us?
Yeah, most of the products we are handling, I mean, for the logistics side, this is what I'm focusing today. We had lots of customers' problems and customers' bad feedback, let me say, because time consuming, planes are late, measures are being taken, policies by the government. Things are not, the timing is not was perfect, and you face that the customer is not expecting what you should receive. What we have done is we started to do brainstorming sessions where we used to talk about the if scenarios. What if this happened? What if after 2 months this happened? Well, how can we cope? We need more warehouses. We need more customer service. We need more drivers. We need more penetration to the market. Blah blah. All these things. I think we are facing a major challenge in our life. We were sleeping beauty. We were easy. Life was good. We wake up in the morning. We go to work. Things are not the same it used to be. Things have changed, and we have to learn that the future might be hiding for us something new. So we have to be with the customers from a personal point of view. We have to know their needs, how to tailor them, how to pamper our customers so that we understand. We have to keep the personal level. When the pandemic happened, people realized when you call them by their name and you address them by their concerns and you give them feedback about their past experience and how you can move it in the future and how you might expect what he is looking for a service, this will shape the future of our business.
Understood.
I think we need to see where the future is going and anticipate it.
That's a good point. Rami, you had mentioned about personalized service. I give an example of how if I visit your hospital or a clinic, I had a bad experience, you can take care of it, perhaps predictively or in advance. A lot of brands are not able to do that at scale. And that's one of the biggest challenges. And I think that's one of the discussion points which is ongoing in our chat with all the delegates who were there. So two things. Kashif, I want to understand from you, how can brands do that at scale? Because I know every CMO wants to offer personalized experience to all their customers. They want to get to know them better. They need to have a historical context, but they're not able to do it. So what are the critical factors? What's missing? What's the missing link?
So, I mean, that's a great question. I think what we've seen at scale is obviously having the tools in place and having the platform and the infrastructure to be able to absorb a lot of structured and unstructured data and then be able to analyze it and then to incorporate machine learning, AI technologies to be able to address on a one-to-one basis the needs of the customer and then be able to convey that specific unique need to an agent, to a salesperson, or even in the self-service channel, be able to convey or address that need at scale. So it's basically about personalization being adaptive and changing the script in real time. So you need to be able to capitalize on the technology such as artificial intelligence that is embedded. It's to be able to analyze a customer's behavior, their profile, their anticipated needs, and be able to take action on that in real time. So again, it's about having the tools in place, which do exist, and they're something that is part of our portfolio, and be able to then utilize that in giving a personalized experience to customers at scale, as we were mentioning. So again, it's about having real-time changes to the script and delivering value, as every value is a value-driven, every interaction is a value-driven one.
All right. So we, I think, have just 1 or 2 minutes now. Melissa made a very good point about voice of the customer is more important than ever. With that, I think I need to close this panel before before Aziza kicks us out. Thank you so much for this amazing insights, and thank you so much for the delegates for having this really, really great conversation going. Aziza, over to you.
And I think we all really enjoyed this panel. Thank you, Dr. Sobhi, Rami,
Thank
Kashif,
you.
Rami, for this thought-provoking session and a really engaging one. I loved how there were points where you're not agreeing and diving deeper into the topic. So thank you for that. It was a great start for the summit.